God, you eat very loud, don't you, Bailey? It's gotta be said. Has no one ever told you to eat with your mouth closed? God. Now, we've all got to be very nice to Bailey today because he's actually just been to the vet and he's been, like, put to sleep for, like, some, like, procedure. It's a long story. So you might have seen some Instagram stories from me the past couple of months. Like, Bailey had like a cone round his head. And the reason for that is because he had a skin infection on his face. So he still does, really. And I took him to the vet multiple times to try and get this sorted. I would just be given like the same antibiotics as always. And it would never improve. So I got a bit impatient and was like, right, why is this not improving? Took him to a new vet just recently. And it turns out he actually has a blocked tear duct. He was born with a blocked tear duct. They're actually not even sure if it's there in general, or at least like it hasn't like formed properly. I'm obviously not an expert in this, but basically from what I understand, it's a tube that runs from your eyes to your nose, and your tears in your eyes go through like this like tube, and that's the reason why tears aren't just streaming around your face like 24/7. But basically on one side of his face, he can't do that, and the tears would like go on his face, and that's what caused the infection. But now we actually know about it. They tried like doing some procedure on it, but they couldn't really do it properly because, like I said, they're not even sure if it's there, or at least it's just fully blocked. But we do know what it is now. He's got like eye drops and stuff to try and help it, and then it could result in surgery in the future, depending on how like it goes now. But I'm just happy that I know what it is now because it's been very fucking stressful and I felt so sorry for him. But yeah, we're making progress. But yeah, sorry, that was a bit of a weird start to the video, wasn't it? I just know people do actually ask about Bailey a lot in the comments, so I thought I'd tell you. But let's get into the actual point of this video, which is actually IDubbbz. Now, I'm not actually sure if I've even spoke about IDubbbz before on this channel, but I'm sure everyone knows who IDubbbz is now. He's a YouTuber with 7.5 million subscribers, a very big YouTuber, kind of like blew up through like the whole like content cop videos he was doing where he would do like this big takedown on a certain YouTuber. Nowadays, he's very different. He's actually made a video a few weeks ago basically saying that he regrets a lot of them videos that he did in the past and he apologized to people that he spoke about and whatnot, which a lot of people weren't happy about. It was all a bit bizarre to me because he made a video basically like apologizing for a lot of offensive things he said in the past, like racist stuff. And then the people who actually had a problem with him on Twitter were people saying that he shouldn't apologize and he's changed for the worse. Which to me is a very interesting take to say the least, but that's not actually what we're talking about today. Because IDubbbz actually runs a charity boxing event called Creator Clash. It's where he gets a bunch of streamers and YouTubers and just creators in general. He gets them together and they take part in a charity boxing event. The money goes to charity. And this is the second one he did. And the first one, I believe they raised about $100,000. And in the second one, as we're about to find out, he actually lost $250,000. So yeah, today I wanted to look through the video, go to the main points, and then give my opinions on it. You know, the usual stuff you see on the MARKIE channel. So yeah, let's give it a watch.
I think it's best to be transparent. For Creator Clash 2, you know, despite it being a fun event and despite good fights and a lot of creators sacrificing a lot of time, money, and energy, we lost $250,000 on the event.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I thought it was only a matter of time that we'd hear a story like this, especially about these boxing events recently. Because when YouTube boxing first started, a lot of people were watching because it was something new, right? We're seeing YouTubers fight for the first time. It was something that, even if you weren't really interested in boxing, you just kind of wanted to watch it a little bit just to see what would happen. But these events are happening so much now, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of events that haven't made a profit. Obviously, we've seen the social gloves stuff as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot more boxing events that have happened in this space that have lost money that we don't know about. But obviously, because this one's to do with charity, and you obviously announce like how much you've raised for charity, this has now become public.
I foolishly thought that the success of last year should be a minimum, you know, a minimum for what we are able to do this year. And that wasn't true.
I mean, I can see why you would expect something like that, right? You just want to kind of improve and improve, but the first time you do something is always going to have like a much bigger appeal, I feel like. Unless it does level up massively for the next event, then obviously more people might pay attention. But like I said, when this stuff is new and no one's really seen it before, a lot more people want to watch. And it's a big shame because it is a charity event, and we hear about these YouTube events going wrong all the time and losing money. And realistically, us as an audience don't really care, right? It's usually multi-millionaires losing money, so it doesn't really seem like that big of a deal to us. But because this is a charity event, it's obviously shit, because he's been promoting this as a charity event. The charities will know about this event, expecting this big donation from the event, and it turns out they get nothing. Now, you might be wondering, how on earth did they lose $250,000 when they managed to donate $100,000 last time? And he does go into a lot more details about this, but basically what it boils down to is the pay-per-view buys were half what they were last year. They only did 50,000 pay-per-view buys this time, which does sound like a lot because I believe they were like $20 a piece or something along them lines. So it does seem like a lot of money, but especially with a boxing event and you're renting out like a stadium or an arena, you got the production crew, all the staff and all this stuff, they're expensive. expensive. And he even goes into more detail and says that this year was more expensive than last year. They had a bigger arena, they paid for a hotel for all the fighters, and just like a bunch of other expenses. He also does go on and mention that there's more fighters in his card. I believe there was 24 fighters and they all got $20,000 each, so you can do the maths. A lot of money. And I'm going to be completely honest, just from my personal experience, I didn't even know the event was happening. And it's kind of my job to look at what's happening on YouTube and whatnot, and I had no idea this event was happening up until the day it happened, and I did end up actually watching it. So I don't know if it was just from my perspective, but I feel like it wasn't promoted very well. And I think a big reason behind that is because the whole energy behind Creator Clash is that they don't beef. They're all very friendly. It's like just a nice sporting event, which is great to watch, right? You don't have to see any fake drama, but drama does sell. And the reason why KSIs and Logan Pauls and Jake Pauls and all these people can make a ridiculous amount of money and get a ridiculous amount of pay-per-view buys from this is because of the drama. So I think the promotion had a big part to play in this, but then IDubbbz also goes on to explain that a bunch of streams were pirated.
Amongst the 800 pirated streaming sites, there were between 1.3 and 3 million viewers. So even though there were around 50,000 pay-per-view buys, there were around 1.3 to 3 million viewers. People who actually watch the full broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, that really doesn't surprise me in the slightest, but one thing that does surprise me in this is that IDubbbz goes on to say that they didn't do anything to try and stop these pirated streams, which baffles me because surely you would know that would happen. I mean, any big event that you have to pay for has pirated streams, and these people who usually run the events pay people to stop these streams and take them down. Because if we're being honest here, for most people, if you just wanted to watch the event, you would pick the free option over paying, right? That the majority of people would do that. I mean, clearly. And a lot of the time, it's not even out of choice. Some people just genuinely can't afford it. I mean, it's $20 to watch something for a couple of hours. There's obviously more important things to buy for a lot of families, like food and whatnot, right? And I honestly feel like having a charity event that is so expensive to run is always going to be a big risk in itself, right? Like, yes, you want to have the best event possible and raise the most amount of money, but I can imagine that this event probably cost upwards of $1 million, and I feel like I'm lowballing that massively there. So already you're counting on having to make over $1 million, for example, and then you get to donations. Like, it just doesn't seem like the best way to go around it to me. And I get putting a price tag on things so you can actually raise the money for charity, right? I get that. But then you see these events like the Sidemen football charity match where they have to rent out a stadium and they have to hire a production crew, staff, all that stuff. And I believe they raised like $1 million on the last one and it was free to watch on YouTube. So bearing that in mind, it seems pretty clear to me that there is a way of doing that properly, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm an expert in running events because clearly I'm not. I've never run one in my life. But yeah, I just feel like it was always going to be a very tricky event to run and raise money for charity to such a high extent, and the fact they did it the first time around is fucking impressive in itself. And on top of that, another thing to bear in mind that could have probably tarnished this event quite massively is there was a lot of drama surrounding the event, not through like fighters like beefing each other like these normal like boxing events, but there was a lot of drama surrounding IDubbbz at the time. Because obviously he did this video where he basically apologized for a bunch of stuff that he had said in the past and a bunch of his actions, which people, like more specifically his audience, didn't really like. I guess because IDubbbz like grew his channel being like a really edgy YouTuber saying like some of the most outlandish shit possible. That's what his audience liked, so the fact he went against that, they didn't like, I suppose. To me, I don't really get that reaction. I mean, he owned up to stuff that no one was telling him he had to own up to. He just did it on his own accord. So I don't really see why people would have a problem with that, but I'm not like an IDubbbz viewer. I haven't been watching IDubbbz non-stop for years or anything like that, so I don't really get what his audience's perspective was at that point. But then on top of that, he'd also had a bunch of drama with someone called Froggy Fresh, who was a creator who was supposed to be on the event, but then IDubbbz kicked him off because Froggy Fresh had said stuff like about IDubbbz's girlfriend. And it just seemed like there was a bunch of negative energy around the event, and not the right type of negative energy. It wasn't like someone was wanting to watch the event because they wanted to see someone they disliked get beat up. It just seemed like people didn't even want to support the event in general. And I think the big thing here for me is that it just sucks because obviously this was a charity event. It isn't just a millionaire losing money again on YouTube and who cares or whatever. It is a charity that were aware that they were going to be getting a big donation in to like help out their charity, and it turns out they're not. Now, one positive that has came out of this for the charity's sake is that IDubbbz has actually decided to do a 24-hour live stream on Twitch here. He is, what, 17 hours in as I'm recording this video right now, and he has currently raised $82,373 for Critical Role Foundation, and he says that he's raised $127,000 total. So it's good to see that these charities are getting huge donations after all, and obviously his viewers are supporting this massively, which is great to see. I mean, let's listen in. He is like nearly 18 hours into a live stream, things. I feel like he's gonna be knackered.
And then people would ask you, did you get the charity's permission to do this joke?
I have absolutely no idea what he's going on about, I can't lie. What I have noticed though is that he shaved the mustache. Oh, that's because he raised $100,000. That was a goal. I mean, he looks better without the mustache, it's gotta be said. And he's actually got a bunch more goals on here. I mean, if he gets 150k raise, it's girly pop. Whatever that means. And then 250k is going bald. I don't think he's going to get to 250k by the looks of it. But, I mean, fingers crossed, it'd be more money for charity. But yeah, at least the situation has had a good outcome. I'd imagine that all the money he's raising from this Twitch stream is going straight to charity. So he will still be 250k down. But I can imagine IDubbbz is a very wealthy man. Even though that is a fucking ridiculous amount of money to lose. I'm sure he'll be fine. But the positive thing here is that there's a lot of money going to charity. Literally $127,000. It's a ridiculous amount. But to me, that is just more proof that if you are wanting to run a massive charity event, there are obviously much easier ways of doing it that aren't so cost heavy, where all the donations can go to charities. And I get that you want to make the event as good as possible, but yeah, like making it more expensive and whatnot the second time round probably wasn't the best idea. But yeah, either way, I would love to know your opinions down below on everything we spoke about in today's video. If you did enjoy, please leave a like down below, subscribe if you are new, and until the next one, I'll see you guys in a bit. Alright, goodbye.